Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Heather Watt-Kapitain. She's our guest today on the What Juices You podcast. And Heather, I'm going to start off by asking you the question that I have asked a lot of people for over 20 years, literally, what juices you? So what is it that animates you? What is it that energizes you? And it's almost that thing of when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to fuel it, it fuels you.
Right.
But it's also both the pursuit of it and the fulfillment of it provide a reliable fuel for your life.
Okay.
And en route to that, sometimes there are things that happen in life that predispose us towards a certain kind of juice. You know, whether that is making a difference or I made a dent in the universe or whatever it is. But if that happens in the conversation, that could be cool as well.
Okay.
And then the last part of the conversation today, I'd really like to get into what is your special juice for the world?
Okay.
It's not that nobody else can do it,
Right.
but you are uniquely fitted to make that contribution to the world. So what is the juice that when people experience that, they go, oh, wow, that is incredibly either beneficial, helpful, beautiful, and it is completely Heather.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's start off with what juices you and what is that energy, and we'll just go wherever we need to.
Okay.
Today. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's a great question. So, for sure, family, my children.
Give us just a little bit about your kids. You've got 3 kids.
Yes. Yeah. 3 kids, 22, 20, 17. They're all at home.
Yep.
Because they're all at the oldest here at University of Guelph, and Grady, my son, is finishing grade 12 and finding his way and what he's going to be doing next year, which is an exciting time to be with him. And the kids, my kids, but also the kids, they're a great window for me into the kids are all right.
Right.
Like, especially because I'm very grateful we have one of those houses that has a lot of kid traffic. Their friends come through and we get to see all of them.
It doesn't work for everybody. It works for you.
Well, for the most part. I could use the kids leaving maybe at around 10:30, 11, so I could get some sleep, but still I'm grateful to have
And the kids are not the only biomass in your
no, that's right. Yeah, I've referred to it as biomass. Yeah. So for sure. Yes, the kids juice me. I get so much energy from them. I get excited as much as we have angst in the world right now, where they are and their point of view and being in conversation with them and how they see their future unfolding is often very reassuring for me, which I don't think we hear a lot right now. Of course, I wish the state of the world was different for them, and they're navigating and they're doing great in it.
In that, Heather, is there a piece of what juices you? I hear natural, spontaneous conversations that give you signals that, they're going to a good place.
Yeah.
They're kind of working things through, but I can see that the long arc is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Is there another juice for you around, okay, actually, I'm a good mom?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like and my kids know it, right? Like they joke about, don't worry, Travis thinks you're a cool mom. I'm like, okay. Like, and it's this running joke, but like for sure. Have I done okay? Yeah. And I think it's a question we ask from day one, which, and the worry that we're not doing okay, I actually think is what makes us good parents. But so for sure that's fulfilling. And you mentioned the biomass. We do have 3 dogs and now a cat through my daughter and her love of animals in our house, and it's a lot. It's a lot. But the energy that they bring and the interaction of the animals and the care and all of the things that we're doing in the house, there's a real vitality. And that vitality juices me for sure. They having that dynamic energy.
Can I ask you something about the vitality? Because that can be a euphemism for chaos, right?
Yes.
Right, and tension, and
Yes.
and who knows where is what, and
Yes.
you strike me as the type of person, and we've worked together,
Yeah.
that you're not afraid of chaos.
No.
Is there any kind of a juice for you in the chaos and potentially the tension and standing in the middle of that and finding a way through to some sort of possibility? It feels
Yes.
to me like that is true of you, but I don't know if that is true.
It is true, and not necessarily. I would say my husband and I are a good match because I would say what juices him is calm and order.
Okay.
Right, and
Yeah.
and he'll always say, oh, I'm really grateful for you. I would never have done that thing were it not for you.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm like, I'm really grateful for you for creating like a really safe container and a space for that chaos to occur.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I like new challenges. I've had a very varied entrepreneurial career. As a result, I'm always like, bring me the new adventure. I like that.
Yeah.
And I like supporting others in their adventure. We're going to get a little bit to, what's that juice that I bring for others? It is
Right.
like, where can you? We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the chaos, and then I have things where I have really built in order. As you know, I start my day in the woods with the dogs.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Something that juices me is my connection to nature.
Yeah.
100%. Being in action, not just in our life and what we're going for, but like, and not in a sort of tomorrow context, but still being able to remain present as we're moving into this goal or whatever it is that we're working toward. It really juices me, and nature does that for me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we could always be in the got these things to do, be on this treadmill, but it presences me in a way that really matters to me.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I would love our audience to hear to what extent that is a priority for you, because I feel like it is a very significant priority for you to start your day like that. And maybe just talk a little bit about that, because
Yeah.
there's kind of an energy hygiene piece here.
Yes.
For you, if you will.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Yeah, and I think I came to it realizing
okay.
that it really centers me. And so physical activity,
Yeah.
as you know, I used to own the running works,
Yes.
and is a big priority for me. So having that, if I'm not in the woods, which is easily 4 or 5 days, then I'm definitely working out first thing. And then my son last year, as you know, I think we talked about this around this time of the year, he challenged me to cold plunging.
Yes.
And I know
You've got
it's
your
like,
own-
it's all the
Right.
trend and all of the, and of course, we research it. Is it good for you? Is it not good for you?
Sure.
Anecdotally, it works for me. And so the cold plunge is back, because in the summer,
Yeah.
I'm also frugal. I'm not buying the one where we have to keep it cold and
Right.
have all of that. So
Which is no problem in Canada in November. It's just
an October to May thing for
Yeah,
us, and it's
yeah.
back in the backyard. And every day I'm back.
Did both of you do it?
Grady has not jumped back on this year yet. I'm harassing him. He says he's going
Grady, if
to.
you're listening right now,
Yeah.
throwing it down.
He threw it down last year, and we had like a full stretch, like at least 6 days a week. We were getting in from October to
Impressive.
to May.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things about it.
Yeah.
It is the intention of it. You mentioned intention, that it is that the routine of it, the consistency, and a little bit of the challenge. There's a little bit of a thrill in it as well.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah.
So
I have a cottage on Manitoulin Island, and
Yes.
so I think we talked about this too. But yeah, in the middle of the winter, I get my juice out of running out on the ice, chopping that 1 inch of ice that is formed, and getting in there, not for long, not nearly as long, I think, what you stay in your
Yeah.
cold plunge, but there is a buzz that comes out of that it affects me for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just the physiological, I don't think, but it's like I did that. I overcame, I accomplished. I get that little rush every morning.
Yeah. Let's talk about the work that you do, Heather, because I think that there could be some very sustainable and reliable juice that you just get from doing what you do. And I would bucket it all up as transformation and helping people along their adventure, their journey.
Yes.
Through very difficult, setbacks, reversals, situations where there is a lot of tension or chaos, and you're helping leaders both from coaching but facilitating. Talk to us about your work and what kind of juice you get out of that.
Yeah. Well, if I start with facilitating, so I've facilitated everything from, just like small strategic planning type meetings to larger scale theories of change. And there's a few things I get out of facilitating. I love, because often when you bring a room of people together, some people are there and excited to be there, and some people are there because they were told to be there. And I think this goes back to my early days in my early 20s of being a server. I was never mad at the tables that wouldn't tip. I was always like, I'm going to get you over, right? Like the cranky tables. I really enjoyed that. And so I kind of look for those folks in the room. And what I love about facilitating is getting everybody to have a sense of ownership about whatever it is that we're going toward. And as a facilitator, I don't always know what we're going toward, nor should I. I'm not pulling the room to an end place, but having them all work together and come to a place where they all have a sense of belonging in what we're doing. And you've experienced, I do this listening exercise first off with people, and I love doing it. What are we listening for?
Yeah.
You're here. Are you listening for here we go again? Or this is going to be another, BS day and nothing's going to come of it. Or I've got a meeting I really need to be at.
Sure.
Or are you just listening to the clock, waiting for this to be over? And then bringing people, no matter what comes out of the actual facilitation event, when people can have an awareness, and this is really what I do in my coaching as well, is an awareness of their thinking and their thoughts, and get that maybe they're not their thoughts,
right.
and be able to be in the moment, get what they can get out of it. That's very fulfilling to me. And getting everybody engaged and having everyone contribute to whatever it is we're facilitating. And what juices me is people. I love the connection with people, no matter who you are.
I get that completely. And I want to put a finer point on it, if I may. And that is, you're serving back in your 18, 19.
Yeah.
And this is the table I'm going to win over.
Yes.
And so the shift and the journey from resistance or coldness or aloofness to winning the person over.
Yeah.
What is it about the winning over?
Oh, is it? Yeah. It's not like a Sally Field. They love me. They really love me. It's not not that so much.
No.
It's that.
Nor is it about I'm going to dominate and control you. So what is it?
Their experience. It is that they get gotten. It is that they're allowed to be exactly the way they are and exactly the way they aren't. If that makes sense.
It
right?
really does.
It is.
They get gotten. I love that.
Yeah, and it's not like, if I use the server analogy, I'm not that server that's, now doing the song and dance because now you're going to like me.
Right.
It is, they really need space. It's getting what their experience is, what they're hoping out of it, and being the mirror and matching that energy for them such that, they have a nice dinner out.
So a participant who is there, number one, because they've been told to.
Yeah.
Number two, they've got things they're listening for, which is 4:00, by the way.
Right.
I get out of here.
Yeah.
This is just the same old BS, whatever.
Yeah.
What is going on inside? So that winning over is happening right there. You want them to get gotten.
Yes.
And there are times, I'll bet you at the end, that people come up to me, I've been through these things for 30 years and this was the best one that ever. So there's got to be some sort of incredible juice in that. Not that I won you over, but somehow there's a surprising possibility that emerged for this person that they thought was never going to happen. Is that it?
Yes. Yeah. Because they were accepted.
Okay.
Right. It was like, I get you. I get that you're busy. I get that this came at, the worst time in your business cycle, and having people get that the experience we're bringing to them isn't getting in the way of what they're doing, but it's actually the source such that they can go away and actually be effective in their work, that they can take this and that it is there to support them.
Okay. And I'm with you, but I feel like there's a missing piece.
Okay.
I feel they do sense almost unconditional acceptance and non-judgmentalism from you.
Yeah.
But I also feel, having seen you work, that yes, they will feel accepted, nurtured. It's like you're right.
I know where you're going.
There's a challenge piece that you bring.
Yeah.
I was talking to our producer here, Rob, about a woman. Her last name is Wahid. She's a poet, and every one of us needs to be an organ and a blade. Mm-hmm. I think in Canada, we're really good at being the organ, that soft, vulnerable human tissue.
Yeah.
But God forbid that we would be the blade, because I just don't want to hurt others.
Right.
And I've seen in you this ability to challenge, never to hurt. That's not the intention.
No.
But talk to me about the challenge piece, because that person doesn't get to the end of the day saying this was valuable just because they were accepted. I don't think.
Oh no. I don't really coddle.
Right.
if that's what it's like, I get that this is where you are, this is where you're coming from, and if we were to talk about a superpower or something that I bring, for sure it's straight talk.
Yes.
I can mirror how you're being from a place of acceptance.
Yes.
and have people be okay with the asshole they are, right? Yeah. Like because we all are.
Yeah.
And when we can see it, and again, it's in their blind spot. Yeah. Right. And if we go back to my kids, I think one of my best parenting sentences is cut it out.
Okay.
No judgment in what you're doing. This is what you're doing. This is how you're being.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure, I can bring straight talk to a room. And in a way, though, that they're accepted for who they're being. There isn't a shame. There isn't a judgment. There is the human condition. But this is a little bit the difference in coaching, right? Mm-hmm. Coaching, we're talking about, it's in the ontological realm. It's just how you're being. We're not looking at the psychology and the why. Yeah. But here's a mirror. Here's how you're being. Mm-hmm. Here's the impact. Do you accept that impact? Often they don't even consider the impact. Right. And so to be able to show how they're being, have them actually see the impact, and have them make a decision. Sometimes people will say, I accept that impact. I'm like, okay, but at least now you're aware and you're living in that impact, and you've got the clarity that this is within your choice. And that's the difference that's transformation. Mm-hmm. If we're asking someone to change is, in my point of view, it is, there's something to fix, there's something broken, there's something wrong here.
It's a pathological view.
Yeah, and I bring to folks, there's nothing wrong here. You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not bad. Yeah. And this is how you're being. And transformation comes from that awareness.
So you're not denigrating in any way the soup that is the psychology.
Right. Of course not. No.
It's just that it sounds to me like the more pragmatic, the dark causal solid line between where you are and where you want to be, and what might be holding you back is understanding being.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And having the capacity to let that be. Oftentimes in the beginning, once we hold up that mirror and people see it, then all of the shame comes in, and all of the, like, what you can let be can let you be. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Okay.
And so you get to pass if you don't want to answer.
Okay. Is a successful podcast the one where I cry? Is that where we're going? Am I going to cry?
I don't even. Oh, I do have a tissue. Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about love when we we drove to Sudbury and back. And you said something that no one has ever said to me in my whole 66 years. And so, again, if this puts you on the spot.
Oh, that's all right.
But the work that you have done internally in your journey has caused you to be really clear about one thing. That you are love.
Yes.
It's not an easy thing to say.
No.
To everyone.
No.
And you probably don't say it to everyone, but you did say it to me.
Yes.
And it was incredibly impacting. And I'm wondering if what juices you and what is the juice that you bring to the world? Is love the ground of that? Is love so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm racking my brain for a beautiful James Baldwin quote that is about love, but I'm going to back up to how I got to that.
Yeah.
In my own journey, being coached by, like, now my longtime friend and mentor, Lawrence Follows. So he asks two questions. One, what wants you? And who are you? And it's like, who am I really? At the source of what I bring to everything, what is it? And the first time I came to this, I'm like, who I am is community. And he was like, okay, yeah, that's good. Yep. And then
he gave you a pass.
Yeah, okay. And then who do you have to be such that you show up for community? And then I was like, well, what do I bring for people? I get people into action in their own lives. I get them out of their own way. Who I am is action.
Right.
It's like, okay, so who do you need to be in order to be able to be action for people at your source? Who are you really? And it was there the whole time. And, I come from my very Scottish pragmatic mother, and we're very, lots of science in my family, and don't ask me to get too airy-fairy. And I was like, oh, crap. Okay. And then who I am, and I'll still get moved when I got that who I am at the source and what I bring for others is unconditional love.
Yeah.
And I don't even put that clarifier on it. It's just who I am is love.
Yeah.
And when I get that that's who I am as source, there's no one I can't be with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
that holding attention between all of that unconditional acceptance and straight talk.
Yes.
Cut it out. Are you okay with the impact that you're experiencing? Love reconciles those in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right?
It is. My straight talk comes from a place of love as a contribution. I am going to love and care deeply enough about the person that I'm not going to coddle. Of course I'm going to, support and nurture. That's also in my nature, but not at the expense of supporting somebody in their own life and getting to what wants them and who are they really,
right? And
who are they for the world. And this isn't where, everyone now has to have, a savior. What am I going to be for the world? It's not that, but who am I at the source of how I show up in my community, in action, for my family, in my work? Who am I? And yeah, I do that from a place of love.
The definition of love that you're talking about is, so we've got all kinds of definitions of love, right? From I love poutine.
Yes.
I love this person that I'm infatuated with.
Yes.
I love running. So
yes.
And so it can go from the very erotic,
sure,
to the very platonic, to all sorts of other forms of love. It feels to me like there's a very pragmatic It's not an abstract thing in one sense that we're talking about here.
No.
It has a ton of pragmatism. If you were to just to offer up, what is your definition of love?
Yeah. I was brought up with no religion.
Yeah.
Which was as we're often so in reaction to something, right? Which
Sure.
was my mother's reaction to being brought up with too much religion. She's
Yeah.
like, kids, I'm going to spare you this. And for me, there is something spiritual in it. And I've heard, I've heard those religious types. I'm just kidding. I've heard people say, God is love.
Right.
And if I get that at the core of what it is, there is something very spiritual for me in my limited spiritual
Sure.
upbringing to what that is. It is connection and acceptance. And it is a source of being. If who I am is love, and you come and where you have a completely different political ideology, I don't have to accept or I don't have to like or condone or
Sure.
vote for your ideology.
Sure.
Can I accept that that's where it is with you? I can. Whereas the more it takes away a lot of my resistance
Right.
to people.
Right.
And as there's the saying, what we resist persists. We
Yeah.
keep getting more of it.
Yeah.
When I stop pushing back and let people come in, then my world expands, and then they have a place to be, and they have a place to actually see what might be mirrored. Not that the mirror is now you have to be and think the way I am. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a place to it helps people stop defending and
Yes.
yeah.
To actually make movement towards who they really are or can be in the world.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a sense that that people get that they're gotten. And if I put my own language on that, I would say that people feel seen,
Yes.
heard, and
Yeah.
that you really do get them. But then there's also, if there's a cloud of the beautiful feminine that can be seen as like the compassion, the nurture, the empathy, the support, the altruism, like these incredibly beautiful things that
Yeah.
we just need them so much. The world is a lot of sharp corners, and we're trying to steer this very soft tissue thing through it. And so all of that gives me a sense of, I can be who I am with Heather. And then there's another side that, we can start to think this is a bit more masculine, but seeing someone's purpose and calling it forth and straight talk and challenge and what are you here for? And what is that adventure that I can
Yes.
support you on? It feels like your love is a mix of both.
It is.
Is it
Yeah,
true?
and that cut it out as a contribution.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something, back to it is when we talk about what is love, and for me, it is that you are me and I am you.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And if I can be in your experience, and then it gets reciprocated, you can be in my experience. But it is, again, bringing presence, like this moment,
Yeah.
not this future state, that tomorrow kind of thing. But what are we doing right now? And it's like a deep breath. And so, but to your masculine feminine point, I couldn't agree more. Like it is, I think I nurture through action. I nurture through the straight talk. It is, you and I have had a conversation because I call it ruthless compassion, and you're like, ruthless, but
No, I like ruthless, honestly.
yeah. But it is just kind of, it is compassionate. It's the Brene Brown, clear as kind.
Yeah.
Right. And
We're getting closer to your juice for the world too, right?
Yes.
Is this it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. People get seen, and I get people exactly the way they are and exactly the way they aren't, such that then they can see what's being held in the mirror. And
That's it's a unique juice. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being in other people's experience so that they can actually also be allowed to be in their own experience.
It's almost like between you and I right now, there's a ground of deep connectedness that you can go down into that and come across and come up into me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And you're actually seeing the world through my eyes.
That's right.
And seeing my experience because you've actually, we're that connected. We're that one.
Yes.
And that feels to me like a lovely playground for you to bring the love that you bring, or to be the love that you are.
Yes. And it's not 24/7. I go back into my own head and I go into where I'm just listening to me, listening to you. But I've trained in it, and I have you're doing that thing. I'm actually just listening for the segue to say my own next brilliant thought.
Right.
Hang on, let's go back and be in Brady's experience. And because it's a practice, as it is this kind of work for all of us.
Yeah.
And it is, I've had people say, is that actually energizing? Like, wow, going around. It 100% is.
Yeah.
Before this work, my husband would call them I'd be laying in bed, he'd call them the and another things, where you relive your day, or you've got the best comebacks half an hour later after the conversation, all of that kind of thing. I lived in that churn of, did I do it right? Like that sort of, even as I start talking about it, I start breathing from here up, right?
Totally.
Like, and the greatest gift that this work has given me is sleep. And I'm not upset in conversation. I am, I'm not brushing off conversation, but I just, the upset, or the, what does it all mean? Or what did they think? Or how am I, did I say the right thing? Isn't there, because even if I said the wrong thing, I now have the capacity just to go back and clean it up, because who was talking, So that kind of peace of mind of just to, be able to be with people, and in that you can hear, I also have a lot of acceptance for my own humanity.
I bet.
Yeah.
Is there a wish that you have for these beautiful people who are listening and watching? What would that one wish be that you have for them?
Oh, gosh.
For anybody who's made it through this long, and I'll bet you they have listened to you.
Yeah. So what is, it is, my wish for everyone is self-expression. That I mentioned Lawrence, who I work with, who he is self-expression. Who I am is love.
Right.
And I was like, did I take love because Lawrence already took self-expression, as if we can't be the same thing? But my wish for people is self-expression, and my ability to express myself and be present has come through this work. And it doesn't, there are lots of avenues, there's different roads to Rome, but to have the awareness, to be able to distinguish ourselves from our thoughts, which is kind of getting into, what I like to coach to, right? Is because we have a thought, people are, that is my thought. I am that, right? Yeah. I am frustrated. There, it's here.
Right.
That person is frustrating. It is the truth. It's my truth. It's the water I'm swimming in. But when we can take it away, and I'm putting it on like the Matrix mask, right?
Yeah,
Frustration.
yeah.
My wish for people is to be able to have the presence to take a breath in their frustration and say, okay, the thought is I'm frustrated. Because when you do that, frustration comes over here.
Yes.
And now who has the awareness of the thought? That, in that space, is presence. That is the space to be able to now self-express.
That's helpful for me, because I was thinking self-expression can be very helpful, and it could be very not helpful, depending on who the self is.
That's right. That's right.
It's
the
like,
persona, the
I
character,
could be
sexist,
bigoted, racist, classist, fascist. We need to build walls everywhere,
Right.
and expressing myself, and that may not be helpful for the world.
Right.
But that's not what you're saying at all.
No, I'm saying to have the awareness that you have a racist thought. Okay, here's I'm going to. So there's a men's group in Guelph, and there's men's groups all over the place, and they do really great stuff, and they're really working on having the awareness of, and there's a lot of gender binary in here that I can be really critical about the men's group, and part of it is what I've said is they do all of this work for acceptance and love of women and how that can look. I'm like that. My sense is if you could be aware of actually the misogynist thoughts that you have, and it's not wrong. Of course, it's I don't agree with them, but it is the awareness of the thought versus the resistance. I'm going to do this nice thing so that people don't think I'm a misogynist. Right. I'm going to do. Oh, look how good I am, or look at how I'm in the dance. If we can just accept that we have that misogynist thought and see it. It's not you. We've got all of these societal things that build that in. But if we can create the awareness of it and stop resisting it and see it, then what becomes possible? Same with, I'm a very privileged white woman. I would say I am not racist. Have I noticed where a racist thought comes in? I have. If I resist it and I'm like, oh, but I'm not that. And then I put pink paint on that shitty thought to make it look like, so that people think I'm good or that I'm an ally or that. But it is, I think the core to all of what you're saying, it is if we can see the thought, be okay with the thought, stop resisting it, and get that just because we had the thought, that's not us. And we don't have to now pretend to be something else. We can notice it. So that is self-expression to me. Is like, what's running you? Is it the thought I'm frustrated? Is it, oh, I had a racist thought, now I have to really pretend. I have to make sure people don't know I had the thought. If they really knew what was going on in my head, I have to hold up this pretense. How exhausting. But, if we can just name it, then it just is. And there's a lot of acceptance in that.
It feels to me like that kind of a world would be messy and also a beautiful messy, because there's a lot of just reality to it.
That's right.
Which just feels safer to me. Than subterfuge and obfuscation and all kinds of ways that we push reality aside.
It is messy, but consider the messy world that we're in right now, which I would assert is the resistance of all of those things. If we just can let something be, doesn't mean it is us. I had this thought, now I have to do this dance so that people don't think that I'm bad. We all have that, right? Well, if they really knew. Because we're ultimately, as human beings, we don't want to get found out. Our brains are bizarre, right? We don't want to get found out as actually not, we're really not that good.
Your wish is self-expression. And
presence.
With all the caveats and that we just said. And I want to just reiterate that somehow you went from who are you was community to no, it's actually action. And I felt like there would have been more steps to where you got to, but you dropped right to love from action, and that was interesting to me.
It came out in a sort of an alumni workshop, and I had that own cut it out moment with myself. And it was, I can still feel like it, you're close to something when you feel physically nauseous, I go
The reason I
very clear.
brought that piece up is that was your journey, but I feel like your wish is that the thing that you went through with Lawrence was, it's all about at this level, and something that allowed you to drop down to know this is the causation of that. This will cause that. And then you went another layer. It's like, if your self-expression could be something that is really at the foundational ground level, there's a ton of energy in that.
Yes.
You don't have to be editing yourself. You don't have to be filtering as much.
Right.
There's this flow of just what is true and what is real.
Yeah.
That's coming out of that. And that's the kind of self-expression that I could get really, really, which is, I think, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And the no filtering, for better or worse, sometimes. Yeah.
Right.
Just, yeah.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Heather Watt-Kapitain, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making this just a delightful and refreshing conversation.
Oh, thanks. It's always a pleasure. It's very easy to be with you, and great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.